The voice under my bed wasn't a monster. Every night when the world went silent, I heard it, a whisper crawling from beneath my bed. At first, I thought it was a ghost, until it started calling my name. The more I ignored it, the louder it grew, echoing through my chest like a heartbeat I couldn't silence. One night, I gathered the courage to listen, and what I heard changed everything, because the voice under my bed wasn't trying to haunt me. It was trying to wake me. I used to think fear lived outside of me, hiding in the dark corners of my room, whispering through the cracks, waiting for me to close my eyes. Every night I'd lie there frozen, staring at the ceiling, too scared to move, too tired to fight. The voice under my bed would begin softly, like a faint murmur brushing against the floor. "You're not enough," it would say. "You'll fail again." Sometimes it laughed, other times it cried, but it never stopped. I used to pull my blanket tighter, as if fabric could shield me from my own thoughts. I'd tell myself, it's just imagination. It's nothing. But deep down, I knew it was something. Something real, something powerful, something I didn't want to face. The voice wasn't coming from the shadows. It was coming from the space between my courage and my doubt, a space I had created myself. There comes a time in every person's life when they realize they've been running from something that was never chasing them. That was me. I ran from challenges, from chances, from people who believed in me, and from the mirror that kept reflecting the truth. Every failure I avoided, every risk I refused was just another way of feeding the voice. Fear thrives on silence, on the things we leave unsaid, and the dreams we never dare to chase. The more I hid, the louder it grew, whispering, mocking, reminding me of every mistake I'd ever made. And you know what's crazy? I started believing it. That's the dangerous part about fear. It doesn't have to be true. It just has to be repeated enough times until you start to think it is. One night, I reached a point where I couldn't take it anymore. I was tired of being haunted by my own thoughts, tired of pretending I was okay, tired of acting brave during the day while falling apart at night. So I did the one thing I'd never done before. I decided to listen. I took a deep breath and let the room stay dark. I let the voice come. It started as usual, slow, cold, and cruel. "You'll never make it. You'll never be good enough." But this time, instead of hiding, I whispered back, "Why?" Silence. For a moment it stopped. Then it spoke again, softer this time. "Because you don't believe you can." Something shifted inside me that night. It hit me like lightning, and that voice wasn't my enemy. It wasn't a monster. It was me, the part of me that wanted to be heard, the part that carried all my fears, insecurities, and unspoken pain. I had buried it so deep under fake smiles and forced confidence that it had to crawl out from under my bed to get my attention. It wasn't trying to destroy me. It was trying to protect me. That voice had seen every failure, every heartbreak, every rejection. It thought it was keeping me safe by keeping me small. But safety and peace aren't the same thing. Safety is a cage. Peace is freedom. I remember getting out of bed that night, walking to the mirror and staring at my own reflection. My heart was racing, but I felt something new, awareness. "You're not my enemy," I said to the reflection. "You're just scared." It felt strange talking to myself, but in that moment I understood something profound. We spend so much of our lives trying to silence fear when all it really needs is to be understood. You can't fight what's inside you. You can only face it. And when you face it, it changes. That night I realized I wasn't haunted by a monster under my bed. I was haunted by a dreamer trapped in doubt. The next morning, everything looked the same, yet nothing felt the same. The sunlight didn't seem ordinary anymore. It felt like a quiet promise. I went about my day differently, slower, more conscious, more present. Every time that whisper crept back, I didn't run. I listened. Sometimes it said, "You can't do this," and I'd respond, "Watch me." That became my new rhythm. Fear spoke, I answered. The more I faced it, the weaker it grew, until eventually it didn't scare me anymore. It became a signal, a sign that I was stepping out of my comfort zone. Fear, I realized, only shows up when something matters. It doesn't visit the lazy or the hopeless. It visits the dreamers, the doers, the ones who are trying to grow. Looking back now, I'm grateful for that voice. If it hadn't scared me, I would have never learned to be brave. If it hadn't doubted me, I would have never learned to believe. Every whisper was a test, and every time I faced it, I earned a piece of myself back. I stopped running from the dark because I finally understood. The light was never missing. It was just trapped behind the walls I built around my fears. The voice under my bed was simply waiting for me to turn on the switch inside my mind. Here's the truth most people don't realize. Fear isn't something you eliminate. It's something you outgrow. It doesn't disappear when life gets easier. It disappears when you get stronger. I used to pray for courage as if it were something I'd find outside myself. But courage was always there, hidden beneath the layers of my fear. Every time I doubted myself, every time I fell and got back up, every time I tried again after failing, courage quietly took root. And one day, when I least expected it, I realized the voice that used to whisper, "You can't," had changed its tune. Now it whispered, "You can." And that's when I finally understood. Fear was never my curse. It was my compass. It was pointing me toward the things I was meant to do, the dreams I was meant to chase, and the life I was meant to live. All along, the voice under my bed wasn't warning me to stay away from the unknown. It was begging me to wake up and step into it. Because the life I wanted, the peace I sought, the success I dreamed of, and it was all hiding on the other side of that whisper. So now, whenever I hear that voice again, and yes, it still visits sometimes, I smile. I don't hide under the blanket anymore. I look at the dark and say, "I know you." And in that moment, fear fades. Because once you understand your fear, it loses its power over you. It becomes a reminder, not of weakness, but of how far you've come. That's the beauty of facing your darkness. It doesn't destroy you. It reveals you. The monster under your bed might just be the part of you that still believes in something more. The voice you're scared to hear might be the same one that pushes you to rise, to grow, to change. It's not there to haunt you. It's there to remind you that you're still alive, still capable, still becoming. So the next time you hear that whisper, don't run. Sit with it. Listen to it. Ask it what it wants to teach you. Because behind every fear you face lies a version of you that's waiting to be free. And when you finally face it, you'll realize what I did. That the voice under your bed was never a monster. It was the echo of your own fear, trying to wake you up to your power. The night I faced the voice, I realized it was never against me. It was trying to wake me. That night felt different from all the others. There was no thunder, no wind rattling the windows, no flickering lights, just silence, heavy and thick, as if the world itself was holding its breath. I sat on the edge of my bed, heart pounding like a trapped bird. The same familiar fear crawled up my spine, whispering that I was making a mistake by staying still, by waiting, by listening. But deep inside, I knew this night wasn't about fear anymore. It was about truth. For years, I had avoided that voice under my bed, pretending it didn't exist, convincing myself it was a figment of my imagination. But fear ignored doesn't die, it waits. It grows in the corners of your mind until it becomes too loud to silence. That night, I was done running. If the voice wanted to speak, I was ready to listen. I took a slow breath, every inhale trembling with a mix of curiosity and terror. The floor beneath me felt alive, humming with unseen energy. Then it came, the voice. Low, calm, yet filled with something raw, something ancient. "Why do you run from me?" it asked. My throat tightened. For a moment, I couldn't answer. "Because you scare me," I whispered. There was silence, then a faint chuckle. "And yet I'm the one who's been waiting for you." Those words hit harder than any shout could. I didn't understand them then, but they carried a strange warmth, like sunlight touching frozen ground. I asked, "Who are you?" The voice replied, "I'm the part of you that remembers." My mind spun. "Remembers what?" I asked. "Remembers who you were before fear took over." That was the moment I realized the voice wasn't my enemy. It was a mirror, a reflection of the part of me I had abandoned. The version of myself that believed, dreamed, fought, and kept hope alive even when the world said otherwise. I used to be fearless once, not because I had no fear, but because I never let it stop me. But somewhere along the way, I lost that version of myself. Every failure, every heartbreak, every disappointment chipped away at my courage until only doubt remained. The voice wasn't here to destroy me. It was here to wake me up. You see, life has a strange way of speaking to us. Sometimes it's through blessings, sometimes through pain, and sometimes through silence. But the loudest messages come disguised as fear. Fear is the alarm clock of the soul. It rings not to scare you, but to remind you that you're sleeping through your potential. That night, I finally understood that truth. The voice wasn't haunting me from under my bed. It was calling me out of the one I had built in my mind. A bed made of comfort, excuses, and fear of failure. I asked the voice, "If you're not against me, Then what do you want from me? It replied softly, I want you to stop living half asleep. I want you to remember why you started. I want you to stop surviving and start becoming. Those words cracked something open inside me. My chest felt heavy, as if years of suppressed emotion were rising to the surface. I thought of all the times I had quit too early, the chances I never took because I didn't think I was ready, the dreams I buried because they scared me. The truth is, I wasn't afraid of failing. I was afraid of discovering how powerful I could actually be. Because once you know your potential, you lose the right to play small. I realized that night that most people never face their inner voice because they confuse comfort with peace. Comfort numbs you. Peace frees you. Comfort says, "Well, stay where you are." Peace says, "You're made for more." I had spent years choosing comfort and calling it stability, but deep down I knew I wasn't at peace. My soul wanted movement, growth, expansion, and fear was simply the messenger trying to shake me awake. So I made a promise to myself that night. I said out loud, I won't run from you anymore. If you're here to guide me, then speak. The room felt lighter, as if something invisible had lifted. The voice spoke again, gentle but firm. Then listen carefully. Everything you've ever wanted is waiting for you, but not where you are. It's on the other side of the wall you keep building every time you say, I can't. Those words burned into me like fire. The wall I keep building, I repeated to myself. It was true. Every excuse, every delay, every moment I chose fear over faith, I was adding another brick. I had built that wall so tall I couldn't even see the possibilities beyond it. And the worst part? I had convinced myself the wall was protecting me. But in reality, it was imprisoning me. That night I cried, not out of sadness but release. Because sometimes before you rise you have to shatter. Every tear was a piece of that wall breaking down. I realized how long I'd been asleep in my own life. Just going through the motions, waiting for the right time, waiting to feel ready, waiting for permission that was never going to come. The voice wasn't my enemy. It was the alarm, and it had been ringing for years. As the night went on, the voice began to fade, not because it was leaving, but because I was finally hearing it from within. Its last words before silence were simple. When you wake up tomorrow, don't go back to sleep. And then, nothing. The room was still again, but this time I wasn't afraid of the silence. It felt peaceful, like standing in a place that finally made sense. The next morning I woke up with purpose humming in my veins. The world outside hadn't changed, but my eyes had. Every sound, every breath, every ray of light felt like a sign of life. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was existing. I felt alive. I didn't need the voice to guide me anymore because I could feel its message in every heartbeat. Wake up. Live. Move. Believe. That day, I started small. I made a list of things I'd been avoiding, calls I didn't make, dreams I'd postponed, goals I'd labeled someday. I chose one and acted on it. Just one. And that one small act sparked something unstoppable, because once you break the first brick in your wall, the rest begin to crumble naturally. As days turned into weeks, I realized that the voice under my bed wasn't just my story, it was everyone's. We all have that voice. It hides under different beds, under failure, under heartbreak, under fear of judgment, but it speaks the same truth. It's the voice that says you were made for more, and when you finally face it, it transforms from a whisper of fear into a roar of purpose. Now when fear shows up in my life, I don't hide. I lean in, because fear is proof that something important is at stake. It's proof that I'm standing on the edge of growth. And the night I faced that voice, I learned the greatest lesson of all. Fear was never meant to hold me back. It was meant to wake me up. Every time I hear people say they're waiting to be fearless before they take a step, I smile. Fearless doesn't mean without fear. It means being awake enough to walk with it. The strongest people you know aren't the ones who feel no fear. They're the ones who've learned to listen to it, understand it, and move anyway. That voice under my bed, it never truly left. It just moved into my heart, whispering now not to warn me, but to guide me. When I doubt myself, it reminds me, you've faced worse nights than this. When I hesitate, it says, you've already woken up once. Don't go back to sleep. And when I rise, it whispers proudly, see, I told you. So if you ever hear your own voice calling from beneath your fears, don't be afraid to listen. It's not there to drag you down. It's there to lift you up. Because sometimes the part of you you've been running from is the same part that's been trying to wake you all along. When I stopped running from the voice, it started guiding me toward my destiny. When I finally stopped running from that voice, life didn't suddenly become easy, but it became clear. For the first time in years, I wasn't moving blindly through my days. I wasn't hiding behind excuses or waiting for signs. I had learned to listen, not to the noise around me, but to the quiet guidance within. And that voice, the one I once feared, became my compass. It didn't shout or command. It whispered. It didn't promise comfort. It promised truth. Every whisper led me somewhere new, to challenges, to lessons, to moments that shaped the person I was becoming. It's strange how peace doesn't always look peaceful at first. When you start listening to your inner voice, it often pulls you out of the very places you thought were safe. It asks you to let go of people you cling to walk away from things that no longer serve you, and to chase dreams that seem far too big for your hands to hold. But that's how destiny begins, not with certainty but with courage. The voice wasn't showing me an easy path. It was showing me the right one. One morning I woke up before sunrise. The world was still dark, quiet and half asleep, the same way I had once been. But inside me something stirred. That familiar whisper returned. Not from under my bed this time, but from somewhere deep within my chest. "It's time," it said. I didn't know what it meant, but I felt it. I'd been living small, hiding my fire, afraid of failing in front of others. I had all these dreams, to speak, to create, to inspire. But I kept telling myself, I'm not ready. That morning, the voice said something that changed everything. You're not supposed to be ready. You're supposed to begin. Those words hit me like truth always does, quietly but with power. I realized destiny doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It meets you where you stand, trembling and uncertain, and says, walk with me anyway. So I did. I started taking steps toward the things I'd been afraid to do. I began writing again. I reached out to people I'd avoided. I faced the failures I'd buried and turned them into lessons. Every time fear tried to pull me back, that voice reminded me, we've been here before. You survived the night. You can handle the day. The more I trusted it, the more aligned everything felt. It was like life itself had been waiting for me to stop running. Opportunities started showing up, not because they hadn't existed before, but because I was finally awake enough to see them. I realized destiny isn't a straight road. It's a maze of moments, each one asking you to choose courage over comfort. Every time I listened to that inner voice, it led me closer to something that felt right, even when it didn't make sense at first. I remember one particular day when I almost gave up again. I had been working hard on something I believed in, but everything seemed to fall apart. Rejections, delays, self-doubt, they all came crashing in like a storm. I sat on the floor exhausted, ready to surrender. That's when I heard it again, faint but firm. Do you remember the night you stopped running? I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Yes, I remembered. That night I faced the voice and realized it wasn't against me. This moment was no different. Then why are you afraid now? The voice asked. This is just another night, another chance to listen. Something clicked. I wiped my tears, stood up and whispered, all right, I'm listening. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of strength. That was the day I understood that listening to your inner voice doesn't mean life stops testing you. It means you finally have a guide through the test. You see, destiny doesn't arrive with fanfare. It doesn't knock politely. It whispers quietly, persistently through the things that scare you most. It's the reason your heart races when you think about that dream you've been avoiding. It's the reason you can't shake the thought of something greater, even when you're tired. That's your calling. And that voice under your bed? It was the messenger all along. As I kept following it, my world began to change. People who didn't align with my growth slowly faded. New faces appeared. People who spoke my language of purpose, passion, and peace. I started realizing that the voice wasn't leading me to success. It was leading me to self-awareness. And once you know who you are, no setback can destroy you. Because when you move with purpose, even your failures become part of your path. I began to notice how that same voice existed in others too, hidden behind their fear, behind their excuses, behind their stories. Some people silenced it with distractions, others drowned it in busyness, and some simply forgot how to hear it. but I could see it in their eyes, that same spark that once terrified me. The voice that said, "You were made for more." That's when I realized my destiny wasn't just to follow the voice. It was to help others hear their own. The first time I spoke about my story, my hands shook, my heart raced, my voice cracked. But as I spoke about fear, about the nights I spent running and the moment I stopped, I saw something change in the faces around me. They weren't just listening, they were remembering. That's when I knew I was doing what I was meant to do. The voice had led me exactly where I was supposed to be, using my pain to guide others out of theirs. And here's the most beautiful part. The voice never demanded perfection. It never said, "You must be fearless." It only asked, "Will you keep going?" Because destiny doesn't belong to the perfect. It belongs to the persistent. The ones who fall, cry, doubt, but still rise every single time. The ones who stop running from their inner voice and start walking beside it. Over time, that whisper turned into a rhythm, a heartbeat of purpose that guided every decision I made. When life grew heavy, it reminded me, "You've already faced your shadows." When opportunities appeared, it said, "This is what you asked for, don't shrink now." When doubt crept in, it whispered, "The same fear that once tried to stop you is now your fuel." And when I felt lost, it simply said, "Keep walking. You're closer than you think." Sometimes people ask me how to find their destiny. I tell them, don't look outside, listen inside. Because the path isn't something you stumble upon, it's something you awaken to. It's hidden beneath your fears, your pain, your lessons, and your longing for more. The voice you fear hearing is the same one trying to lead you home, to your truest, strongest, most authentic self. Now, when I lie in bed at night, the silence feels different. It's no longer filled with whispers of doubt, but with peace. The kind that comes from knowing I'm finally aligned with something bigger than myself. Sometimes I still hear that faint echo, not as a warning, but as a reminder. Don't forget where you began. Because that's what destiny truly is. Not a destination, but a becoming. A process of facing everything you once feared and realizing it was all guiding you here. So if you ever find yourself haunted by that same whisper, the one that crawls from the dark corners of your heart, the one that keeps asking, "What if?" Don't silence it. Sit with it, listen. Ask what it's trying to show you, because maybe it's not a monster after all. Maybe it's the guide you've been waiting for, the part of you that remembers what you were born to do. And when you finally stop running, you'll see what I did, that the voice under your bed was never there to scare you. It was there to lead you, to wake you, to push you toward your destiny. Because every fear you face, every whisper you follow, every brave step you take, they all lead you closer to the person you were always meant to become.